Hey, Gary here. Welcome to BookMob episode 87. Now today I'm going to go through 100 novels that I've read. Out of all the thousands of novels that I've read over the last couple of decades, I am going to show you 100 novels that I think that hesitant readers or people who don't read that much will be able to pick up and go, this is a good book. That you will get knowledge, entertainment, pleasure, and have fun reading. So I'm going to go through this as quickly as I can because I'm not going to split this into two 50-50. I want to do 100 novels as fast as I can. I will show you the cover, obviously, and then I'll just give a brief description or tell you how I felt when I first read it. Now, these are in no particular order of favoritism. It's merely the 100 novels that I have picked, chosen, removed, put back in, removed again, put others in. It's been a project that I've been working on for months, trying to find the 100 novels that I think are highly entertaining, engaging, with great readability. It's for readers that I consider people who are more likely to watch TikTok for 3 hours, and I'm saying to you, give this particular book a chance. In the description, I will list the 100 books I go through, but for no further ado, let's start. And I'm just doing this with the 100 on my left here. You can't see it, but I'm just going to pick them up and we'll go through it. Here we go. Number 1. Falling by T.J. Newman. Now, T.J. Newman has written a number of other books in the same genre of airline disasters. This was her first book, and it was completely one of those stories you read, you love, you enjoy, and then you put away. It's not a book that is going to give you an intense experience in literature, but it's going to entertain you, and you'll have a long feed. So that's Falling by T.J. Newman, number 1. Number 2, okay, June. Now, I tried to read June. This is on my third attempt. I finally finished June, and you know what? I really enjoyed it. The first 2 times, I just couldn't get into it. I wasn't in the mood. It was just really, really difficult for me. But I read this very quickly in 2-3 days, and not only that, I've read the other 4 or 5 novels in the June series. But the June original, number 1, is a really, really interesting read. It's full of subtle human history in it. It's fun, it's entertaining, it's science fiction, and it's a blast. Number 3. Oh, this is a great one. The Exorcist. When I was a kid, I saw The Exorcist, the movie, scared the living shit out of me. But this book by William Peter Blatty, it's just awesome. It sort of tells the story, I guess you get it from a first point of view for yourself. You get to see the ins and outs of whether they are dealing with a child who is psychotic or a child who is indeed possessed by a demon. But a great book. I mean, it's one of the most frightening movies I ever saw. And I only really, when did I read this novel? It must be quite recent. Yep, I read this in May 2024. And I loved it. It was a great story. Again, another brilliant narrative, and something the hesitant reader will certainly enjoy. So that's William Peter Blatty, The Exorcist. All right. Oh, there's another good one. Stephen Graham Jones, The Only Good Indians. Now, this wasn't his first book, but it was the first book that I read. And Stephen Graham Jones his popularity has risen a great deal since he's released this book. And I think he released this 5 years ago or so. 5 years ago. And it's a great great horror story. And it's all about hunting, and it's about spiritualism, and it's about wickedness. But a really gripping story that the non-reader will really, really sink their teeth into. So that's The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. Okay. One of the most, again, the brevity of most of my choices. I have got some really, really thick, dense books, but the majority of the books that I've picked, I've tried to narrow down to 350 pages at on the narrow end, and I think over 1,000 pages on one of the major reads that I think that even a hesitant reader would enjoy. But anyway, Robert Louis Stevenson, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. What a story! I mean, listen, the language in this is just fascinating. Just listen to this sentence. Mr. Utterson the lawyer was a man of rugged countenance that was never lighted by a smile, cold, scanty, and embarrassed in discourse, backward in sentiment, lean, long, dusty, dreary, and yet somehow lovable. What a great fucking sentence. That's Robert Louis Stevenson, and you could easily finish this in a day. You're going on a short plane trip? This is a book for you. I've lost count of the numbers, so I'm just going to go, James Sallis. James Sallis Drive. Again, I saw the movie first. I'd never heard of James Sallis. I saw the movie, and I read this book in... it doesn't say. I read this book, and I loved it. A great sort of noir thriller, filled with really, really interesting characters that keep you reading. It's a wonderful crime-based story. The film is magnificent, but this book is brilliant. And again, someone who doesn't read will certainly be engaged and really, really enjoy this novel. Drive by James Sallis. Great stuff. All right. H.G. Wells, War of the Worlds. Obviously, there's multiple films, plays, records being made of the story. But reading the original story by H.G. Wells is fascinating. Beautiful language, great story. Characters are sort of are there. They're not in-depth characters, but the plot, the Martians, the idea of this invasion from another planet. And this was written at a time when the world was, I guess, not exactly it's not the world that we have today, for instance. And I think a novel that was written in the last years of the 19th century certainly carries through as an engaging, entertaining read in the 21st century. The War of the Worlds, H.G. Wells. Awesome. All right. Man, the Sisters Brothers by Patrick DeWitt. This is such a great book. The language is awesome. The language, the way he plays with words. I mean, even look at the title, the Sisters Brothers. It's just brilliant, and a great sort of. I wouldn't say it's not a Western. It's more of a people in difficult circumstances, just trying to live, and it's sort of like it takes place in a hellish environment. And the two characters are just fascinating. The humor is brilliant. I couldn't put this down, and I highly recommend The Sisters Brothers by Patrick DeWitt. Great book, worth a read. All right. D.H. Lawrence is at times a difficult writer. Probably a lot of people don't read him because a lot of his books are just so deep in language, and it does make he does have a real sort of he's so literary that it kind of makes it difficult for non-readers and new readers and hesitant readers to get into it. But The Plumed Serpent is just a great story because it's fantasy, it's mystical, it's set in Mexico, and it just has a real sordid ambience about it. And there's some difficulty in getting into it, but it's a powerful, powerful book. And for reading someone who's known in the classics, D.H. Lawrence, this is, I wouldn't say this is the best book of his to read. I think I've got the best one in there somewhere. But this one I could not leave out because when I picked it up, I was truly inspired by how beautiful and great his writing was, and also the ideas in the story, the mythical drive, the need for gods, just brilliant. Just a really, really outstanding novel. This is a bit of a chunky one. How much is this one? Yeah, nearly 600 pages, but what a story about a young boy during the Second World War, The Tin Drum by Gunter Grass, and he refuses to grow up. So he remains a boy with his drum, and it's during the Second World War, and he ends up in a sort of German army circus, and it's just a really crazy but highly readable book about the madness of war. It does give you an insight into the different types of people who were involved in the Second World War, were just uplifted, killed, murdered, survived, fought. Just a brilliant book. Again, a film was made of this, I think in the 70s or the early 80s, which is just magnificent. But again, read the book. The book is so much more thicker, it's denser, but it's a really, really fascinating story. Brilliant. Love it. Couldn't put it down. All right. Ian McEwan on Chesil Beach. What a story. And again, this one is a nice one. It's only 166 pages for those of you who are too daunted to take on the Plume Serpent. But this is a really, I guess it's a depressing, sort of irritating novel, but that's what it's about. So when you read it, you get this, these two people in love, so to speak, and it's this sort of really brooding and suffocating atmosphere. And that is entertaining because of the way McEwan manages to bring off the story. You just, you really don't go with the flow because it's kind of like this really spit in the face of, of contemporary human relations. Again, I couldn't put it down, and I never saw the film, by the way, but I love the book, Chesil Beach. We're getting through them. All right. Thomas Harris, The Silence of the Lambs. Now, I've read all the Lambs books, Red Dragon. I read them in order. But The Silence of the Lambs, I guess because when I saw the film in 1991, I think it came out, I was in the United States at the time and I saw it at the movies, and it just freaked the hell out of me. I never knew it was from book at the time, it was so many years ago. And then a couple of years ago, I decided, hey, let me try to read a film I'd seen with a book. And this was Thomas Harris, The Silence of the Lambs. Great read. Will keep you engaged. I mean, it's not going to scare your pants off, but it does give you that, you get into the mind of the killer, you get into the mind of the FBI agents, and it does travel well. It sort of keeps you reading. And I think that's one of the values of the books that I'm talking about here, is that they're entertaining, engaging. They're a fun, they're pleasurable read. Okay? So, Silence of the Lambs, Thomas Harris. Great. All right. Okay, I've got I do have a couple of war novels, and again, this one is Thick 521, James Jones, a veteran himself who was wounded in the Second World War fighting in the Pacific. And this novel, you probably do, have you heard of the film, The Thin Red Line? I think it was made in about 1998 or 1999. I read the book after I saw the film again, but this book is so good. Talking about individual men's experiences and then bringing them together in a one full narrative where you get to know the characters. There are some things in this book that were not in the film. I'm surprised because Terrence Malick is generally very open to breaking tropes, of heroism, tropes of cowardness. But what I'm saying is, in this book, you've got it all. If you want I guess, an oversight of the Second World War, of war in the Pacific, in a fiction form, based on, don't forget, James Jones was a Marine who did get wounded in action, and The Thin Red Line, brilliant book. Same guy who wrote, I think he wrote Whistler after this, and From Here to Eternity, which was his first war book, which is pretty good. But The Naked and the Dead really gets to the guts of the fighting men in the Pacific during World War II. Awesome story. Really loved it. Here we go. Again, another H.G. Wells, The Time Machine. Look at that. You can get through this in a day or two, or on a flight. Entertaining, fun, amusing. Again, written at a period of time when I guess this is again the last 1895, the last 5 years of the 19th century. So this book still holds up as a science fiction story that can be wholly entertained and wholly read by anyone from 12 to 55 to 99. H.G. Wells, The Time Machine. Great story. Woohoo! All right, this is Kevin Powers, The Yellow Birds. This is one of the few novels that I've read that have come out of the Iraqi War in 2003. This is a really superb story of modern warfare, modern soldiers, with some great dialogue. You get to know soldiers, American soldiers I'm talking about, who come from various backgrounds in their life, and how they found themselves in this strange war. As usual, a young man in a foreign land fighting a war he doesn't understand, and at the same time they continue to fight because the love of the brotherhood. They're put in a position where they are not the politicians. They are merely the young men who signed up, some before the war, some during the war. And this is one of the great books of the Iraqi war that started in 2003. Really great book. Loved it. A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. Okay, again, the film supersedes the book in some sense in popularity and in culture, but a really, really difficult book at times to read because of the language and because of the way that Burgess approaches the characters. But it's just a great. You really get a feel for what Kubrick was trying to do in the movie. In the book, you feel it and you see it in the narrative. And again, it's something you can pick up and read in a couple of days. You're going on a train journey or a flight interstate or international. This will keep your eyes off the big aeroplane on the small map. This is a really, really vigorous, tough read. But again, it's engaging, it's entertaining, and it is a reading experience that you will not forget. So, Clockwork Orange, Anthony Burgess. Woo! Powerful stuff, that. All right, where are we going to go? All right, I picked another fat, thick one. This one is just, how many pages we got here? Yeah, okay, nearly 750. I can see how Blondie by Joyce Carol Oates will turn people away, and I guess Netflix managed to turn people away by making a bloody series or film about it. But this book, don't forget, it's people get mixed up. This is fiction. What Oates has done has taken a huge 20th century, middle 20th century superstar and showed them in a very, very nasty way in the fact that their life, they made this glamorous life on the screen and this horrendous life off screen. And Joyce Carol Oates just presents this really gripping, engaging story of stardom and how powerful people use stars, movie stars, celebrities to pursue their own, their own selfish needs without any regard for the stars. And I'm not I'm not saying that Hollywood stars should be treated with kids' gloves, but what I'm saying is what happens to Norma Jean, the character in this book, Marilyn Monroe, is just fascinatingly done. And again, it's a fiction, it's a tale, it's a narrative. It's Joyce Carol Oates coming up with her own interpretation because she died very young. She died in some very suspicious circumstances. And of course, with conspiracy and with conspiracy theorists, she's been created more out of who she was. So now there's this kind of fakeness about her. But when you read this book, Joyce Carol Oates, I think, really tried to get the human side of a megastar in Hollywood in the 50s. A great book. Don't rush out and see the thing. Read the book. Come on. Do yourself a favour. That was tough. Stephen King, Carrie. Woo! I think this is his first published novel, I think, isn't it? Yeah. And apparently, when he wrote this, he put it away, and in fact, I think he was going to throw away the manuscript, and his wife found it and kept it and gave it back and said, no, work on the story because it's going to. I guess she had a sense of the time. I guess books are about timing in the culture, and Carrie certainly carried Stephen King from day one of his writing career into what he's done today. I mean, it's got both his sons are horror writers. So Stephen King, Carrie, great book about high school students gone rogue. It's a wicked, witty narrative. Again, it's easy to read. It's a fun read. Stephen King, Carrie, highly recommended. Okay, try not to get all. Here we go. Martin Amis, Times Arrow. This was recommended to me by a very good friend, and I've only read one or two. I think I read his memoirs before I read any of his novels. But a really great story. Times Arrow told backwards. It's not frustrating. It's fun. Very interesting story, and I think it's something again that you can get through. 136 pages. If you want to be entertained and you want to have a good reading experience, read this. You can kick it over in a weekend easily. Martin Amis, Times Arrow, great book. What do we got? Okay. I'm trying to. Didn't know I picked so many. Oh, here we go. All right. Sally Rooney, Conversations with Friends. I read this in 2020. This is her first novel. I love reading debut novelists. I know nothing about them, so I take the risk and have a go. Now, out of all the, I think she's how many has she read now? Written 1, 2, 3. I think she's written 5 novels now. I've read them all, and unfortunately, the only one I actually was enjoyable or entertaining for me was Conversations with Friends, because I think it was a unique idea. It was well written. It is entertaining. But however, if you're going to pick Sally Rooney, this is the one that I would recommend to the new reader. Sally Rooney, Conversation with Friends, kicked up a lot of heat during the day. Oh, yes. Bloody hell. The Road by Cormac McCarthy. Now, I don't try to rate everything, but I must admit, if I had to say my best top 10 books, 2 of his books would be on my top 10 list. The Road would be higher. What a great story. It's just so threatening. It's brooding with horror. It doesn't let up. It's so hard to read, in a sense, not hard and difficult. It's just tough to swallow, because I think McCarthy was trying to tell a story about how low human beings will go to survive, what they will do on the good end and on the evil end, the way this father tries to protect his son, the great scene where the father finds a single can of Coke and gives it to his son, because his son has never tasted Coke, because he lives in a savage sort of post-apocalyptic land. And it just showed you the love a father for a son, and it just shines through this book. Fascinating book. Some of the scenes, the cannibalism scenes, are just frightening to read. But boy, what an engaging! I mean, I highly recommend Cormac McCarthy's The Road. Just a fantastic book. What a great novel. Walter Tevis, The Man Who Fell to Earth. Now again, I saw the movie of the book many years ago with David Bowie. The film is just fascinating. And when I read the novel, I was utterly pleased. It transcends the film, because the film cannot get into the mind of the reader, into the mind of the writer, apologies. And this is what happens. You get into the mindset of the creator of this brilliant story. It's a great science fiction story. The stranger in a strange land, the politics of trying to find your way. Once you've got into a mess, how do you get out of it? It shows up the human condition, juxtaposed by an alien who's looking at the species as if he's a scientist. Just it's a tragedy, but it's also a human book, because it exposes so many cracks in the human condition. Great story. Walter Tevis, The Man Who Fell to Earth. Film is fantastic too, but they're 2 separate pieces of art in my book. But read the novel, just brilliant. Oh yeah. Jack Carr, The Terminal List. Now, this has been turned into another series, Netflix series. This was Jack Carr's first novel in the Jack Carr series. So he's written 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's written 8 novels. The last one, Cry Havoc, was goes back to 1968 in Vietnam, but the first 7 are basically this revenge of military bureaucracy, of the idea that politicians make decisions for soldiers and sailors and Marines and special forces operators go and do this, and no one really knows why they're doing it, but because they're duty bound, they follow orders, they do horrible things. And again, it's the idea of the two-tier system where you've got politicians at the top who are just dictating the morality or the exposure for men to do things that they wouldn't normally do, but how they do them because they're duty-bound and they are people who are patriots. And Jack Carr, the Terminalist, really, it's his first book. I loved it when I first read it. I've read all the others. They're fun reads. They are fun. They're entertaining, not to be taken seriously. They're not political treatises on the war on terror. It's about an individual in a story made up who has to come to terms with the brutality of military bureaucracy, which is probably worse than the brutality of the battlefield. Great book, Jack Carr, The Terminalist. Loved it. Okay, here's another great narrow one for you boys out there. The Stepford Wives, The Stepford Wives by Ira Levin. What a great book. Again, a dense, concise story that is frightening, but it's entertaining. It's highly, highly engaging, and you can get through it quickly and really feel that you've read something with substance. A very simple story, and told in a very, very flowing narrative that what they call a page turner. I couldn't put it down, and I think that anyone who has not heard of Ira Levin or has read the Stepford Wives will find that they will enjoy this really brief tale about technology and politics and gender issues gone mad. Great book. Well written. Hertamula, I think it is, The Land of Green Plums. Now, this is one of the first books I read many, many years ago. When did I read it? Did I write it down? No, I didn't. Anyway, it's set in Romania during the height of the Ceausescu reign of terror, before the Velvet Revolution. And that was in 1989. But this is a really great story of living in a contemporary I need to slow down, I think. I'm getting too excited. I thought authoritarian in a fascist state. Yes, and I can't. Yeah, but it's a great novel, Hertamula, The Land of the Green Plums. I guess it's an autobiographical fiction novel about living under an authoritarian rule and how people survive day to day. Great book. Love the cover too. We're getting there. Jack Finney, The Body Snatchers. Again, I think the film has been made like 4 times in the last 50 years or whatever. Once again, reading the book is a bit more simple than the movies. The book is a bit more thrilling than the movies. The book is far more entertaining. Again, reading the story, getting to know the characters. And again, it's not a book that's going to bog you down, 225 pages or so. And a fascinating science fiction story. A story, told in the early days of the latter half of 1955, 56. What did I write here? I wrote something here that was obviously important. It says here, I wrote here, mention how film adaptations change ending to a negative, particularly the 70s version, when in fact writers who lived in challenging times were by outlook positive. The book ends with humans overcoming the alien invasion. But I think in the movies, you remember that one, Donald Sutherland? I better do it like this, I don't want to get flagged. When he becomes the alien and points out his fellow resistance fighter who when they got separated. Okay. This is the first Margaret Atwood book I read, The Blind Assassin. Okay, of course, it's one of the chunky ones, 640 pages. But what I liked about the story, it's the story of a family. It's told through multiple people. You get to enjoy seeing different people doing different things. And basically, you go from one group to another person. So you're constantly on the move while reading this book. And again, this one was a difficult one to put in because I didn't think that, even though it won I think this won the Booker Prize. Yeah, it won the Booker Prize. And the book is not famously known for picking books that are entertaining, but this is a very entertaining novel. And even though it's chunky, even though it's going to appear beyond the normal reader, the hesitant reader, the non-reader, I challenge you to pick it up, because I do think Margaret Atwood writes such a great, simple, well-written story that you just forget the time around you. And that's the brilliant thing about literature. You read, you get stuck into it, 3 hours have passed. Man, if you could spend 4 hours on TikTok, you can spend an hour on a book. Come on. Let's get our shit together, people. All right. What else have we got? I won't pick that one. Oh, here we go. This will... Okay. This is a writer who creates a lot of tension when you mention her name. Ayn Rand, The Fountainhead. The Fountainhead. What a great book. This was the first Ayn Rand book I read, because when I was very young, I saw the film with, I think it's, with Gary Cooper, and I kind of liked it. I was struck. I'd never seen a film like it. It was a story of an architect who lives by his own code of architectural code, a moral code. He won't. He'll build buildings for people, but he won't let them choose what he says. I'm the architect. I'll tell you what kind of building you're going to live in. And of course, this creates this sort of, again, it's a two-tier system. The rich people with all the money in the world, who are shown to be selfish and jealous and superficial, whereas he's the working man who can't get work as an architect because no one will build his buildings, and he ends up working in a coal mine or something, becomes a labourer, and finally it's how he overcomes his own determined architectural code to impose his vision on others. So a really entertaining book. And again, it's entertaining because they made a really great movie from it. But once again, the book is just as engaging. The book is just as fun. And I highly recommend Ayn Rand, The Fountainhead. And don't get too bogged down on the sort of, what would I say, the uncomfortable aspects of Ayn Rand's objectivism, her politics. Just read the bloody book. It's a really good story, a great story. And that's what we're here for, stories. All right, hold on. $33. Okay, Peter Carey, this is good. The True History of the Kelly Gang. Love this book. This is so good. Ned Kelly, Australian bushranger, criminal, violent individual, Irish bastard, a family sort of disgruntled with the British aristocracy, pushing buttons and treating people like shit. It's the underdog story, but at the same time, Ned Kelly is not some kind of saint. He's a damaged man. The way I love the way Carey portrays the sort of comradeship in the bush, the way they have a pecking order, and there's a couple of scenes where men are forced to wear dresses, and it's just a really it gets into the psyche of Australian bush mythology, because it is rough out there. And I always imagine in the 19th century, the clothes they wore, how they adapted to the violent environment, the heat, the floods, the creatures, and yet these men thrived and did their best. Some were violent. Ned Kelly ended up getting hung for his crimes, but Peter Carey really does a brilliant justice to Ned Kelly, The True History of the Kelly Gang. Great story. I I think it was, unfortunately, it was also made into a film with Heath Ledger. It was great, and it was a good film, but nowhere near as captivating and as entertaining as the novel. Get it at your peril. I loved it. Okay. Kurt Vonnegut, Slaughterhouse-Five. A really wacky science fiction contemporary drama novel, somewhat based on Kurt Vonnegut's own experiences as a young soldier at the close of the Second World War, where he was taken prisoner, like Billy in the book, and sent to the slaughterhouse is the name of the holding cell where all the Slaughterhouse 5, where all the American prisoners of war were kept, and in Dresden. And he talks about how the character, as well as Kurt Vonnegut, survived the bombing of Dresden in 1945. This character gets taken by aliens and put in a zoo, and he travels in and out of time. He knows what's going to happen, then he doesn't. It's a really fascinating science fiction book that does deliver in every page. Great book. I've read it a couple of times because sometimes I can't remember the story and I go, that's right. Just a fascinating book. I'm all for it. Oh yeah, here we go. John Fowles, The Collector. Kind of like a sort of Silence of the Lambs, but without the actual demonization of the serial killer. You get to see this normal, relatively on appearances, young man, and he collects women. And it's so. I remember I won't say the last line, but I remember the last line, and I was going, wow, when I read that. It really just circled the whole book for me. When you get to that stage, you kind of know what's going to happen, and the way it ended, it was just perfect for this story. Remember, these are books; they're fiction, novels, but a really, really interesting, highly entertaining, engaging novel again. And this is why I've picked all these novels, because they're entertaining, they're engaging, they are fun to read. It's a pleasurable reading experience. Despite the content of books, be they about murderers or soldiers, it is what you feel when you read. How would you escape from the real world into books? And this is one of those books that I vouch for, that will let you disappear into books. Great. I love the color. I love the cover too with the. Was it? Yeah, that's good. All right, where are we at? No, not yet. Not yet. Here we go. Man, this guy knows his shit. Charles Bukowski, Post Office. What a great novel. Henry Chinaski. I guess you could say Henry is in some respects Bukowski himself, but again, I wouldn't do that. It cheapens the novel. This was his debut novel, and it's so entertaining. The humor's, the dark humor, the grisly humor is so good. It's really, really, it's a laborious experience for the character, but the readability is just up there. It's just so good. Great language skills, the satire, the sense of gloom and doom and booze, just brilliant. Again, a novel that you can get through quickly on a flight or an afternoon by yourself, or a break from 10 hours of TikTok. Charles Bukowski, Post Office. Love it. Awesome book. All right. This book I read when it first came out because there was a huge controversy. It was printed published in 1994. The Hand That Signed the Paper by Helen Damodenko. Now, the writer, his name wasn't Demidенko. This is where she was kind of cancelled because of this, which at the time I just thought was ridiculous. Again, she has an idea. The writer approaches the idea. She tells, she cultural appropriates, but it seemed to miss the constant, I think she won the Australian Vogel Literary Award, and I'm not sure, but I think they removed her. I think they removed her from the winners' podium after. Because it deals with death camps and SS, Nazis and Second World War and immigration. And I suppose, it's a really interesting story. It's well told. And don't forget, this was written in 1994, so it's held its time, and it's held its value as a good, interesting novel. It really reads well. And I'm not sure, I think Helen became a journalist in London, I think, after this. And I can't say if she's read any other novels. I didn't bother to look it up. I just know that when I read this back in 1994, I was taken by it. I really thought it was an excellent story. And then the sudden sort of anti-Demidенko sort of, from the, the literature class with fucking up in arms. As usual, people who've got too much time in their hands, just let the book stand on its own. Which they didn't. Great book, though. Okay, here we go. On the Calculation of Volume by Solveig Ball. This is book 1 of 5, I think. I've read 1, 2, 3. I've yet to get 4. I don't think it's been translated into English yet. But this is a book about Groundhog Day. The main character is living, I think it's the 18th of December, every single time she wakes up. Well, she knows, and obviously no one else knows, that she's living this single day over and over and over again. And here she tries to come to terms with it and tries to manipulate the world. Like, for instance, she tries to find how to move within the seasons by going south and going north on the very same day, every day of the week for a year, to try and get that sense of time. Just a brilliant book. Great story, and I can't wait to book 4 because the idea just keeps increasing and becoming more and more filled with other people trapped on the 18th of December, and who knows what the completion of the series will be. But again, the Groundhog Day told in a hellish landscape, not a fun landscape like the film with Bill Murray. This one is a bit more down to earth, a bit more domestic, but in a sense it's fascinating and at times a challenging read, but still fun read, really interesting. I loved it, and I've read the other, like I said, I read the other 3. I've still got 1 more to go, but it's still yet to come. What have we got here? Okay, this is by Maggie O'Farrell, Hamnet. Now, this won the Women's Prize for Literature in 2020. I think I just read somewhere that they're making a film about this. It's set in 1596. It's one of those books that it's not a history lesson, but it's a lesson in narrative anthropology, because you're right. The author's trying to inspire a story, because Hamnet, and I always thought it was Hamlet. I keep saying Hamlet because the story's about Shakespeare's son and Hamnet. And I must admit, like I said, I even in my head I'm reading it Hamlet as Hamnet. I'm not sure if that was on purpose, but a really entertaining story. And like I said, they're making a film about it, and I'm sure the film will be very successful. But again, read the book. Have a go. Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. Good read. Okay. In a Lonely Place by Dorothy B. Hughes. I loved it. looking for a film noir. I think it was Bogart. Did they make this film with Bogart? I think this is the film. I think Bogart was in it. Really, again, that film noir, noir literature, great narration, great dialogue, fun, entertaining. You're stepping back in the past. You're looking at literature that hasn't been, in the sense this book has not changed in the 40 or 50 or 60 years since it was written, and it's Los Angeles in 1940s. Great stuff. A real time capsule for culture, and wonderful story. Very strange. I really enjoyed it. All right, I'm going to take a break. Oh, I had to dig down hard for this one. Let me just have a quick smoke. Quick puff. Need that nicotine. All right, let's go. I've got to move quicker. It's too slow. Okay, this is a great book about the butchery and eating of human beings on a mass global scale in a controlled, organized system because of a sort of accident in the DNA of the world. And it is Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Bastarrica. Now, it's like the social and bureaucratic measures taken to produce meat. And Agustina Bastarrica has taken a very human taboo and turned it into a fascinating, scary, frightening, entertaining story. Good read. Tender is the Flesh. I love this book. Madeline Miller, Circe. Getting a lot into Greek and, mainly Greek myths. I've read Stephen Fry's Mythos, Heroes, and Troy. And Circe is another one of those sort of narratives that have taken a Greek myth, turned it into a contemporary novel that is entertaining and fun to read. And I know that, and I've noticed that since Circe has come out, a couple of other books have jumped into the Greek mythology narrative. But Madeline Miller, I know she's writing another book, and I'm going to stick with her because Circe was so well done, so entertaining, and a wonderful, blistering modern story told from an ancient tale. Circe, Madeline Miller. Get it into you. I really liked it. Okay, back to the classics. Again, you can't beat this one. 120 pages. You should be able to kick this off in an afternoon. It's Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. The film Apocalypse Now is apparently based on this story. Going up a river, finding someone who's taken ideology to the end of the world, and basically saying, this is the way you behave, you will follow me. It's a king in a garbage pit of nature where the jungle tries to kill you every second of the day. It's told in a weird kind of first-person, third-person story. I would suggest reading the introduction. I don't always read them, but sometimes if you do read them, it really does help fill in the gaps in the story. And it's fun and entertaining, and it's a classic, and you should enjoy it. I mean, I highly recommend it, okay? That's why it's on this 100 novels. Bloody brilliant. Okay, what's this? Oh, yeah. Now, Bazois by Virginie Despentes. Before I get any hate about, I'm not an educated man, and it's very hard. Virgin Despentes, I don't know. Bazois. So don't get your knickers in a twist because I can't pronounce a name, for God's sake. Now, the only reason I read this book was because I saw the film, and the film was the sort of French sort of Pulp Fiction, Alphaville type mix-up about women on a rampage with guns, and I really enjoyed the feminine power in this book. And in fact, I think when I originally ordered this book. I'm trying to think. I had it up here. Damn, I can't. It's funny how you can't find things when you want them. I ordered this book, and I actually got the French version, and I can't read French, so I had to reorder it. So I bought two copies, one French and one English. And I wanted to show you that, and I'm sure I had it up here somewhere. Here it is. Yeah. Here's the French version. Besoin. Assiste compare un beurre éclair et bleu glad. No, I can't read French. Anyway, entertaining, fun, wicked read. You'll love it. Maybe you won't, but I'm suggesting you might. Big fan of Stephen King, obviously. This is his novel about the assassination of JFK, 11/22/63, a day that changed the world. Love the time travel genre. And in this book, the time travel genre kicks back, and it really does. Stephen King really delves into the 60s. The character who's thrust into this position does so at the expense of his real life. It's a love story somewhat, but it is mainly about a man's desire to stop the assassination of President Kennedy and then to return to the present day to see the cheery utopia that that grew because he wasn't killed. And little do we know, that's what this book's about. You change the past, you don't know what's going to happen in the future. And this is what this character goes through. It's his journey. It's mainly about himself, obviously. He has an opportunity. He soaks it up. He makes many mistakes. He has to come back. I love the idea that he, in the time travel portal version of the book, when you go into the 60s, when he goes into the 60s through the pantry at the diner, he could be gone 5 years, and when he comes back, it's only a minute or two. So he ages normally in the period that he's away, because the time portal only lets him go out at a certain time on a certain day in 1960, I think 62, just before, a year or so, a months before Kennedy is assassinated. And the previous owner of the portal made a few mistakes and he couldn't do it. So now he's come back and he's offered the role to a new character. And it's a page turner. Couldn't put it down. It's chunky, but it's such a fun read. Great book. Excellent story. Here we go. There's a real George Orwell, 1984. Okay. I think a lot of people say they've read 1984, and I don't think they have. It's so popular. It's so part of the culture that people say, oh yeah, 1984, because they all know the story through the various, the cultural topic of the term 1984. It's just so huge. But it's such a good story. Winston Smith, this guy who's just duped by a pretty woman to go and destroy, his life was already destroyed, but perhaps he would have been happier if his fantasies of creating a utopia from the dystopia that he lives in, because he had a perfect system for beating the system at that time. But it's like anything, you give someone an inch and they take a mile. And this is Winston Smith's fault. He wasn't happy with his little piece of peace in the nightmare of the party's world at Airstrip 1. Great story. A fascinating read. Written in 46 or 49, or let me be perfect for the 49. Written in 49. What a great book. Couldn't put it down. Read it very quickly, and again, don't be turned off by its academic and political and social contagion. Take it as a science fiction story written in 1949. That predicts, just in its the popular culture, predicts so many aspects of our material existence today, let alone the political and philosophical points of view that we have to deal with. George Orwell, 1984, great book, highly recommend. Okay, this is The Painted Bird by Jerry Kaczynski. Man, was this. This is a wild book, all right? It's a young boy escaping the Holocaust through war-torn Europe. It's just nasty. People are so ugly. The way he's treated. It's such a good book. It's entertaining because it's brutal, and it's a interesting, captivating read because of the way the world, once the horrors of the war is over, doesn't mean horror's over. And this character's sort of, I don't know, this character's journey is just so fucking nasty and negative, and it's like the devils just follow him. But it's such a good read. I really, really love this book. Actually, I got it only for $5 at a second-hand bookstore. When did I read it? 2017 I read this last. Is that where I bought it from? Oh, yeah. Great read. The Painted Bird. Whew. I still remember it today. Okay, let's go. Hey, okay. Again, this is the second Cormac McCarthy book, and the one that would be my top 10 books of all time. No Country for Old Men. Again, brilliant film. Book is so good. It's such a... The simplicity of McCarthy's narrative is so accessible to every reader. The story, you just keep going on the words and the story builds in your mind. It's such a brilliant, fun, entertaining, scary book. Again, yeah, the film's great, but boy, you'll get so much more out of that film if you read this book. Cormac McCarthy, No Country for Old Men. Loved it. Bloody brilliant. All right, this is a strange one. This is my only, what would you call it, graphic novel. I bought this in 1981 at a bookshop because I'd seen the film, and back then I didn't have VCR. There was no video stores, so for me at least. And I really I loved the film. Blade Runner was just blew me away. And even though it's taken from Philip K. Dick's Do Robots Dream of Electric Sheep, which the story is, obviously Blade Runner stands alone. And at the time, I had nothing else to follow my passion, to follow my query, the mystery of how this film was made, who made it, what was it about. I'd feed on anything. And I found this, and I was so excited. And it's sort of comic book style. I call it a graphic novel because it's mine. And I just love the way it was like reliving the film again in comic book form. And so I just chose this. I don't know how accessible or easy this is to get nowadays. Maybe in reprints, I suppose. But it was just such a brilliant. Look at my cheesy. Look how I treated it. I stapled in my plastic cover when I was a kid, and I still got it. I love it. Blade Runner. Okay, here we go. Blake Crouch, Pines. I think it's part of a 3-novel science fiction novel about a secluded area where people are controlled and you don't know what's going on, but obviously by the end of the story you'll know what's going on. And then book 2 and 3, which I haven't read, I'm sure obviously once the greater mystery is cleared up, it gets more entertaining. But this was great in the sense that you didn't know what was happening. You were in the dark as much as the main character. And again, they made another series with Matt Dillon, which I saw before I saw this, and then I found that it was from a book series, so I picked up Pines just to have a go. Well written, fun read, worth the effort. Bear by Canadian author Marian Engel. A woman librarian has to go to an island to sort out a library. And it's this sort of comical, loving story about someone who is, or something that is on the island, and it's this sort of mystery, but it's a really tactile, interesting story, funny, I guess, but I just love the idea of when you're a solitary person, sometimes things come to you in order to soothe your loneliness. Bear by Marian Engel. Interesting, fascinating book. Enjoyed it greatly. Okay, this is C.S. Forrester Greyhound. I didn't see the movie of this, but I wanted to read the book because and like I said, if it's so it's a technical book that gives you the tension, and it gives you the fear of being a captain or a crew member on a battleship, or well, a ship in the Second World War. And it's this constant fear, and the way he writes it, it's almost as if he has taken a logbook of an actual journey and then transcribed that and made it into a narrative. And it's a really gripping, fascinating novel about men at war at sea. C.S. Forrester, Greyhound. I liked it. Okay, this is my second Ira Levine book, Rosemary's Baby. Oh, what a great story. Fun read, horror story about being gaslit the hell out of, I mean, could you imagine if 20 people said the sky's green and you know it's blue, but they keep telling you the sky's green? Well, maybe you're going to believe the sky's green. This is a really well-written, fun book about demonic people who have convinced someone, a married couple, that their baby is the child of Satan or something like that. But there's a lot more going on, and it's a fun read. And again, I think people who don't read will find this interesting enough to put up with it through the entire story. Okay, Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451. Again, one of my favourite science fiction books, because it's about writing, it's about literature, it's about books, it's about a character who enforces dystopian rules about literature, who burns books, and how something changes in a person, and they realise what they're doing is wrong, and how they get out of it, and what they do in order to sort out this madness where people want to control every aspect of your life. It's kind of similar to what's going on today, nowhere near as hazardous or as rough or as nasty as what's happened in this book, but this idea that thoughts and books and ideas can be controlled by unknown forces, by bureaucrats, is really fucking annoying. And when you read this book, you go, yeah, I want to be the person who does something. I don't want to be the person who stands and does nothing. But it's a good book. Fun read. Okay, Bret Easton Ellis, American Psycho. It's like reading a sort of IKEA catalogue when you go through this. It's written in that really sort of sterile, maniacal, psychotic manner about someone who's just so absorbed in himself. It's almost like he doesn't exist. Powerful book. Stay away from the hate, man. Just read the book. It's a story. It will entertain you. It won't change you. You won't become a misogynist serial killer all of a sudden. I promise you. Great book. Fun to read. Bret Easton Ellis, American Psycho. Actually, when I was in Ireland, when the film came out, some joker behind the counter must have all the tickets for American Psycho. What he had typed was American Physio. I thought that was very funny. I think I've still got the ticket somewhere. I kept it. All right, Patricia Highsmith, The Talented Mr. Ripley. Again, it's funny. Yes, so many films have been made from these novels. So many films. And I didn't do that as a map. All I'm saying is the 100 novels I picked up that I thought would be engaging, fascinating, and good for people to read, good for new readers, junior readers. And it's because Hollywood understands good stories. This is a brilliant story. Film, of course, was great. But again, get to the depth, get to the source, the real source. The historical source of the film is the book. And fascinating book, great story. And in fact, I read a couple of years ago, what did I read? I read Patricia Highsmith's, her diaries and notebooks, and she goes into the reading the writing and the research for her books, and how she read them, her daily trials and tribulations. And again, having that information really makes reading the book so much more better. Okay, here's John Wyndham, The Midwich Cuckoos. Great book. Lovely writing, dated writing, but still makes sense. Fun read, a bunch of kids who are kind of become sort of zombies from an alien species type thing. and it's the way the children grow quickly, and I guess you can see that it's a parasite, a takeover of the planet, and it's the trials and tribulations of, and this is the British government trying to contain this new spread of madness, and then it's spreading up all around the world, and it's just really, like it's got that sort of gentleman sort of 1950s driving an MG down a country road style of writing and reading, and it's just fun. Brilliant, great story, evil story, but really fun. Midwich Cuckoos by John Wyndham. Good read. Philip K. Dick, The Man in the High Castle. Awesome story. I think, again, they made a bloody TV. It's almost like they steal these ideas and make them on TV, and as if they've created them. Come on, read the books. The Allies have lost the Second World War. This is the outcome in North America. Science fiction, what do you call it? History. I can't think of words because I'm firing all cylinders on this one. Fun book, highly entertaining. The Man in the High Castle by Philip K. Dick. More, could this guy write? I mean, he's got about 5 bloody billion books. Okay, this is nice. This is Elizabeth Harrower, The Long Prospect, an Australian writer. It's really, it's kind of this sort of domestic story set in, I think it's Sydney, and it's just a pleasure to read something that was written 60 years ago about a city that I live in, and just the way that she talks about places I know. But it's a very calm, awkward book about a twisted relationship, and just fun. When I say it's not fun to read, it's just interesting to read, but it's entertaining, and it does grab you. You do want to find out what happens, and I think that's important when you have a story. Elizabeth Harrower, The Long Prospect. Okay, John Fowles, A French Lieutenant's Woman. It's my second Fowles on the 100 list. Again, they made a movie about this. The movie was quite good. But again, I love this book because of the first time I ever read a book where an author presents himself to you in the narration, and you find out what it sort of breaks up the monotony of the story in some sense. When I say monotony, I don't mean the boring. I just mean the narrative, and you're going along, you're comfortable, and something happens. It's like scratching a record, but it happens at the right time. And I thought it's a fascinating book. Originally, I thought it was a difficult read, but once you get past, say, 100 pages, you get stuck into it, and it's a very, very interesting and pleasant book to read. John Fowles, The French Lieutenant's Woman. I think Meryl Streep played the lead in that film that was made in the early 80s, I think. Okay, where are we going? Here we go. This is another great one. Okay, this is called Cherry by Nico Walker. And this is about an ex-soldier from Iraq who comes back to the world. He's damaged, fucks up. And I kind of feel that the writer himself might have gone to jail himself, and this might be written. Anyway, Cherry. It's about he's a medic in Iraq. A novel by Nico Walker. So check it out. It's another sort of low-level look at the politicians and the bureaucrats sending young people off to war, to kill, to die, to get maimed, and then how when they come back into society, a society that doesn't really care because they weren't involved. And in fact, there's a sort of animosity towards people who served overseas in these wars because, there were terrible wars and people died. But, it's like taking the decisions of a silent elite and then putting all the shit on the people that are carrying all the shit bags for them. Not good. But this is a good novel, interesting. I don't know if he's written another novel since then, but if he doesn't, Nico is certainly added to the pantheon of great, easy, accessible, fun, entertaining books. You like that sculling there? The Flight of the Phoenix. I found this in one of the free libraries, garden libraries up here in Denison East where I live. And this is one of the original publications. And it's just a great story of a group of I think they're mining engineers or something like that, who crash a plane in the desert, and one of the characters is a is an airplane designer. I'm not going to give away the sort of the twist about the story, but it's a wonderful story about how these men hate each other, love each other, they fight, they argue, they're in the middle of the desert, they've got no way to survive. This bloke comes up with a great idea, and either they put in or they don't. And good story, got a great sort of mid 20th century narrative. Well done. If you can get it, read it. Fun, entertaining, beautiful. All right, this is Jocko Willink, Final Spin. Jocko Willink, you know him from, he's got podcasts and sells, I don't know, iced teas with protein or some shit. Ex-Navy SEAL, he has a lot of children's books as well. I think they're called The Warrior Kid. But this is his first actual novel fiction. Look at the font. It's written like it's read and written like you've just pulled it out of a typewriter. A very simple story about someone doing something wrong for someone they love. What will they, what lengths will people go to make sure that their family is looked after? And in this film, it kind of borrows on tropes from a lot of sort of rebellious 1950s, 1960s disaffected youth kind of films where the young person looks up and sees all the hypocrisy and all the bureaucracy of shit, and they try to defeat it, but usually they end up on the poor end of the stick. But it's a good story, Final Spin, worth reading, easy reading, entertaining. All right, World War Z by Max Brooks. Now I love this book because it's sort of written it's sort of presented as a sort of a dossier, and you kind of find out what's going on around the world in this zombie plague, and this global plague, and how a person's sent off to find out some way of stopping it, some way of finding how to fight this plague. And it's done very well. Look, the film was bloody good too, with Brad Pitt. There's no doubt. But so entertaining, such a good book to read, to lose yourself and to enjoy a story, enjoy narrative. And this is it. This is one of the good ones. Just pure fun. Now I picked Michel Houellebecq. I don't know how to pronounce his name right, so just, maybe you can pronounce it for yourself there, Michel Houellebecq. I mean, he's written loads of books. I think I just read his last one a couple of months ago, but this was the first atomized. I think I like this book because I didn't know anything about it. When I picked it up, I never heard of this writer. I just found his writing really dry and really nasty. I like the way he picks on people. I like the way he shows grotesque characters just living normal lives who don't give a shit about anyone but themselves. And at the same time, how sometimes they do give shit about someone else. And that's what's good about it. It's the surprising read about nasty contemporary humans living in a world where everything is for them, don't care about anyone else, but occasionally they break through. It's about just how do you behave in society, how what is good, what is bad, political incorrectness. I think I'm drawn to that. I'm drawn to people who are prepared to scream out nasty, harmful, annoying, things to people, and just to express those words, because it's just that person doing it. Still, atomized by Michel Houellebecq. Houellebecq, I'm sure someone will tell me how to pronounce it. Good story. Great read. All right, this is a chunky one. Okay, it is chunky. Charles Dickens, Nicholas Nickleby. Now, I think I've read all of Charles Dickens, I think. Love his books. They are made for immersive reading. They are made for great characters. They are made for listening and minding stories. There's nothing wrong with sitting down over a week or two, getting through. Now, I suggest that when you read this, and I know you will, get in and read it every day. be it 20 or 50, if you've got time, 100 pages a day, because it's like nearly 1,000 pages. But such a fun story. The characters going through a world that we don't know anything about, and Dickens tries to present his image of London or his image of England at the time. It's fanciful, it's ridiculous, but it's so entertaining. It's a happy book. You know, there's a lot of happiness in this book, and I think the more people read Dickens, I think the happier the world will be. So I chose, out of all the novels, I've chosen Nicholas Nickleby by Charles Dickens. Beautiful book. And I've read it twice, I think, and I loved it. Now, this is going to be this is another. I just want to get through a chunky ones now. Okay, now Henry James, The Portrait of a Lady. I tried to read this about 5 times in my youth. I just couldn't get through it. Because I think I hated the characters. But then finally, when I did bust through, when was that? 2019. I finally bust through and I just loved it. It's so well written and I was captivated. So I'm taking a risk on this one. I don't imagine people are going to be running out to buy The Portrait of a Lady from this video, but it's such a special, important book because of the language is just so lovely and you really sink into the book. And it's well worth the effort. Again, you have to put in the effort because if you're not on top of it, you've got to read every day in order to get through it, to fully understand it, to immerse yourself in the book. It's, in a sense, another Charles Dickens, but this one's a bit more denser and it requires some work. Not pure entertainment, but definitely entertaining. Here we go. This is the only Michael Crichton book I've ever read, The Andromeda Strain. And the reason I did read this book is because I saw the movie years ago as a kid, loved the film. It was one of those first serious science fiction novels that I'd, oh, what's going on here? There's no rockets, there's no aliens. It's set on Earth in contemporary-ish. And anyway, I looked around, I couldn't find it, and then I went to a secondhand bookshop, and there it was. So I picked it up. Great book, fascinating read, really, really good story, gripping, a mystery, and so well told, and totally worth a read. You'll like it. I'm sure you will. You better like it. Another John Wyndham novel, Day of the Triffids. What can I say? Easy read, fun read, entertaining, will keep you sitting on your ass. You can read it in a couple of, 3 or 4 days at the most. Have the full pleasure of the story. Basic story with, really simple characters, but a really, really eerie take on an invasion from another planet. Awesome. Norman Mailer, Tough Guys Don't Dance. Love this book. I think this is my third. I think I've got 3 mailers on this list. The reason I like this because of the style of the writing. It's someone who, Norman Mailer has, won the Pulitzer Prize, but this is like a sort of gangster type novel with ordinary people up against lunatics, and Mailer made the film of his own book, and in that regards, he wrote and directed his own film from his own book. So I can read the book and watch the film as a companion piece because the film is just so fucking good. And this book is just so good. The creeps in it, the way the dialogue is just so... What's the line? My favourite line. I'm sure I marked my favourite line. Obviously not, but I thought I did. I've read it a couple of times. Oh, here's the original. Where was that? I'm slowing down the video because I need to think, and I just saw something that might be interesting. Oh. Here's the original receipt. I bought this book in cash. 26th of May 1994 for $14.95 from Dimmicks. Great book. Read it. Or don't. But you should. Okay, Agatha Christie, Death on the Nile. I'm not a big fan. I don't have read all of Agatha Christie's novels, but I wanted to read a couple. And Death on the Nile was something that I was aware of because I'd seen the various films from a young man into the contemporary era. And it's a fun read, easy to read. It's a page turner. You'll like it. Death on the Nile. If you're going on a trip, pick this up. It's well worth the effort, and you'll get through it in no time. Okay, Fight Club. Chuck Palahniuk. What a crazy novel. Again, great film, but the novel is just so good. Couldn't put it down. I think I read it in a day. In a day. Read it in one day. And loved it. Oh, here's the sticker. Bought it for $20 at Dimmicks. Well worth a read. Crazy story. You probably know all about Fight Club from the film, so I won't have to say any more. Just check it out. Do yourself a favour. This is a fun read. Daniel Defoe, A Journal of the Plague Year. Now, a lot of people are under the impression that this was a journal of the actual plague year, but it's not. It is a fiction book. It is not a diction. It's not a biography of the plague. It's Daniel Defoe talking about a character, but he does it so well, you do honestly think he knows everything about the plague because he was in it, but I don't think he was. But it's a fun, and it's hundreds of years old, but it's so good to read. I enjoyed it. I think I've read it maybe twice. Just a sort of time capsule piece, a look into the past, beautiful writing, strange story, well worth it. More digging. All right. Norman Mailer, The Executioner's Song. You're going to ask me, how can a book of nearly 1,100 pages be something to read for a new reader, a hesitant reader? Can a book this long be that entertaining, that engaging, that worthy of your time? Yes. This is a great book. Now, this falls under a non-fiction novel. And it's different from Norman Mailer's later book, which I didn't include in the 100, that I would, because the later book he wrote about Lee Harvey Oswald, Oswald's Tale, dealt more with documents, recordings, whereas Norman Mailer gets into the life and the mind of the killer Gary Gilmore, who in 1976 murdered 2 people in useless crimes, and he killed them for no reason. Even he didn't know why he did it. And when he was found guilty and sentenced to death, where someone in that state, I think it was Utah, even though they had the death penalty, they didn't carry it out. Gary Gilmore decided, I suppose he felt that his life was valueless at that time, and he was remorseful, not that that does much for the victims or the family, but he insisted that he be put to death as the system had pronounced him. And it was amazing, the reaction of the time. So no one had been put to death for a long time, and suddenly, even though they had the death penalty, people get sentenced to death, they never get executed, they live out their lives. Whereas Gary Gilmore decided, nah, it's not good enough. And he demanded that the execution be carried out, and his mode of execution he chose was to be shot. Gary Gilmore was a very, very complex, he was a thug, sociopath, I guess. But on the other end, he was very artistic. He had great command of language, which he would use to manipulate. He loved to manipulate people. He could lie with such precision, it was unbelievable. He could tell you he loved you, the only person in my life, and the next second he'd go outside and he could kick a dog to death. So a really vicious, nasty, complex human being who, when given the opportunity, decided not to take 20 years for a sentence to be carried out. He demanded that the system that had put him to death or sentenced him to death would put him to death. So Mailer and I think his agent at the time, what's his name? I can't remember his name. He's very well known. I hate the fact that I can't remember because he's such a major character in this book. But anyway, when you read the book, you'll know what I mean. It's so beautifully written. The characters of those that surround Gary Gilmore are really borne out in such an authentic way. And don't forget, this is someone who's writing about people he's never really known. I mean, he never knew Gary Gilmore, Mailer I'm talking about. And he just gets into his psyche, the dialogue, the language. Obviously, he spoke to a lot of people about who Gary Gilmore was, who Gary Gilmore's family was, how a person who was he was in and out of jail his whole life, had a rotten childhood, became a thug, became a thief, would have moments or periods of, pure fun, a very good man, and then and not because of drugs, not because of booze or anything. He would just drop his ball. He would get into violent fights. He would have terrible relationships. But it's such a powerful story. It's just so good, and it's worth every one of those 1,100 pages. It's Gary Gilmore's story, written by Norman Mailer. It's a factual account in a narrative of a novel, but don't get bogged down in that. I have heard people say, I don't read things unless they're true. Even fiction book, even non-fiction books aren't true. It's just, again, what I'm saying is this is a novel. This is a creative novel. This is a piece of writing. It is a masterpiece in a sense because it's so well done that when you read it, you get sick, you get upset, you get amazed, and you see the waste. But ultimately, Mailer has, really, to me, this is one of the best novels of the 20th century. Just a brilliant book, and I've read it like 5 times, I think, over the last 30 years. And, it won the Pulitzer Prize. And again, when I asked AI, because AI is obviously new, and I said, is this a book? And they had the same response I did. It's a fictional account of a actual life. So, brilliant book. So worth the time and the effort. I wish it was thicker because it would have been better. So read this. This is a great introduction to Norman Mailer for people who've never read him. Loved it. Masterpiece. Okay, back to nice and brief. Faulkner by John Cheever, about a prisoner and his life. Very well written, simple narrative, good story, easy to read, accessible, entertaining. Solaris by Stanislaw Lem, Russian writer. They've made a couple of films. I think they've made 2 films or maybe 3 films of this book, but the novel is so much better. I mean, look at that cover. How great is that cover? What did I fill out? My boarding pass for something. Anyway, look at that cover. That's, it's humans going into the deepest, darkest spots of the universe, finding out that they don't belong there, they shouldn't be there. What are you doing here? You've got to stay on that planet, and just a wonderful, scary horror sort of science fiction, but with its feet on the ground because it's about bureaucracy trying to deal with something that they never thought would happen to their scientists. Wonderful book, Solaris. Read that a couple of times too. The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells. The brevity of this story is what makes it so easy, what makes it so much fun to read. H.G. Wells, the guy, I've got a couple of his books, haven't I? The Invisible Man, H.G. Wells. Beautiful story about an invisible man, and it's not the invisible man in the more literature sense. This guy really is invisible, and it's a fun, exciting, easy read. I, Claudius by Robert Graves. A little bit chunky, but not that much. But it's, if you want to find out about Caligula, the Roman Empire, or period of the Roman Empire, told in a narrative, beautifully written. Robert Grave's language is just fantastic. It's dense, and it's, it was written in the 30s, 34, 35, or 30, probably 36, 35. Anyway, classic book, very, very informative, filled with character. Again, it's not about these people. We don't know if these people are like this. It's just Robert Graves going, I want to create a story for contemporary readers that they can enjoy about events in history, and this is my way of interpreting them and presenting them to you, the reader. Well, if you want an introduction into Caligula and Claudius, the Roman emperors, I highly, highly recommend that book. We by Yevgeny Zamatin, and again, it's about life as a mathematical, I don't know. It's like humans are numbers and mathematics. I guess the passion of mathematics. It's the idea that humans can explore space. It's it says here, the most influential science fiction novel of the 20th century. I don't know about that. Great read, at times difficult, a bit. It is challenging, but it's a great science fiction novel that I certainly enjoyed and wrote and read very quickly. We by Yevgeny Zamatin. Translated. I'm going to give this translated by Mira Ginsberg. Never give the translators away, do I? Once again, another big, fat, thick book that you can go, this can't be fun, this can't be entertaining, and I'm telling you, this is a great book. Don't read the abridged versions. If you'll notice, there'll be abridged versions of this story, you're missing out. This is a fun, exciting, epic story about a man who's been beaten and destroyed by, again, the scum of the elite class who take advantage of people, and this is one of those great revenge stories, but told in the French style, and it's just awesome. Now, 1,300 or so pages, you're going, I don't think I can read that. You can. Read 100 pages a day. Put aside something, and you'll love this story. Again, more of that immersive reading. Put it down so when you come home, you go, I can't wait to get into Dumas, the Count of Monte Cristo. Fascinating, beautiful read. Orlando, Virginia Woolf. I think I've only read about 2 or 3 Virginia Woolf, but this one I've read a couple of times because I love the story. It's a science fiction story in a sense. It's about a person who just stops aging, a person who goes through different time periods from the Elizabethan ages. And I guess some people might be turned off because Virginia Woolf is known as a very, very complicated, thickly, educated language barriers, but Orlando was the one that I read that instantly grabbed me because I could read it, understand it, and enjoy it. Well worth a read. Virginia Woolf, Orlando. Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert. I love this book because it was written in an age where I was brought up where everyone was proper and normal and polite and, man of society, when in fact people are always the same. They're cheating, they're nasty, they cheat on their wives, they cheat on their husbands, and this thing about the class system. And Madame Bovary was someone who just thought, nah, I'll do what I want, when I want, because I'm an individual. I want to live in my world. So it's a selfish person, but at the same time, it's a liberated person. Fabulous story. It does plot along, and it is, I wouldn't say it's an easy read, but it's an enjoyable read once you allow yourself to get stuck into the narrative. Just enjoy the story, enjoy the characters. Madame Bovary. Great, I loved it. Okay, Gore Vidal, Lincoln. Now, he's written a couple of books. Gore Vidal, well-known writer, well-known commentator, even actor. But Gore Vidal's Lincoln is again a fictional account of the United States president, and I guess it's difficult to say that this would be highly entertaining, but it is because it's so well written. It's such an eye for history to someone who's read so much history, someone who's who's then presenting it to you in a story, in a book, in a novel, and it doesn't tell the true story of Lincoln. It tells a story about Lincoln, and it's very well done. I really, really enjoyed it. I've only read it once, but there's so many books, man. Ken Casey. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Man. Again, disturbing topic. Not a happy place. But well written. Fascinating. Microscope on a community of people who, live in a world of their own making, and it's humorous, it's funny, it's scary, and it's such a good way to access, I guess, mental health or lunatic asylum literature. Again, another brilliant film made from this book, but the film and the book are separate, and I highly recommend One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Casey. Enjoyable to the end. Big Sleep by Raymond Chandler. Detective story. Just fascinating use of literature, of words. Beautiful ideas. Great characters. Fantasy characters. It's a fantasy novel, but it has its own world. So good to read. Raymond Chandler, The Big Sleep. Magnifique. In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. Another one of those, another one of those fictional novels of a true account that uses both actual research, but Truman Capote again also puts in his own ideas about the two young men who murder a family. And again, why did they murder them? No need to murder them. They did. Why did they murder them? He goes into their psychological state, what kind of men they were. It does drain yourself a little towards the end. It reaches a high point, and it's almost as if Capote went, "No, I'm not. I want to keep it going." And I just found the last sort of 40 pages, kind of you could have left out, and the novel would have been stronger. But essentially, well worth a read. One of the first books I read as a young adult, I was 16, young teenager, that really grabbed my attention, and I still remember reading. I'd never heard of In Cold Blood. Someone just suggested, "I'll read this book," and I went, "Okay, never heard of it." Just dynamic stuff. Jules Verne, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Again, it's chunky, but man, it's so easy to read. A fantastic story, a science fiction story about a crazy dude who's built and produces his own world underwater. He has this the Nautilus, an amazing machine, because he's so sick and tired of the world. It's a revenge story as well. He captures three guys who were sent away on a ship to find the Nautilus, because at the time they thought the Nautilus, the submarine, was some big monster, and suddenly these three guys are taken into Captain Nemo's world, and we find out the disturbing sort of relationship between the crew and the captain, and what they're doing and what he wants to achieve. But again, the last 50 pages, it just really drags, but the story itself is fun. It is entertaining, and it is a page-turner. Highly recommended for young readers. I reckon 14 to 20, they would love this book. But that's just me. Clive Barker, The Hellbound Heart. You remember the film Hellraiser? Well, Clive Barker wrote this, and then he made the film Hellraiser in the 80s. I liked the novel because, and actually, let me tell you, I saw the film years ago. I saw it a couple of times. Again, had no idea. I don't know who Clive Barker was. And then I read one of his other novels in about 1989. And that's the novel I took to basic training with me. And I read, say, 5 or 10 pages every day to keep my mind on the job. And anyway, Clive Barker, The Hellbound Heart. Just a fun, easy horror story. Great descriptions. The character Pinhead. There's no Pinhead in this book. The character Pinhead actually came from the making of the film, when people were, the makeup department were just calling, oh, we need makeup for, the one with the pins in his head. So they just called him Pinhead, and apparently Clive Barker hasn't been impressed by that. But so Pinhead, who's in this book, is not in the book as Pinhead. Pinhead is an attribute that is given post production of both book and film, which is quite funny. So Clive Barker, Hellbound Heart, early horror stuff, great. All Quiet on the Western Front, Erich Maria Remarque. Depressing, horrible, nasty, but brilliant. A book that you can imagine, I think Adolf Hitler was really pissed off with, when Hitler came to power in the 30s, he kind of wasn't impressed by Erich Maria Remarque's description of war, because Hitler knew that he was going to be sending millions of young men to die for the Nazis. And because of Erich Maria Remarque, he knew, because he'd been there for 4 years on the Western Front, killing, dying, and being wounded and living in shit and mud. And this book is so short and so easy to read, but it's a great, great tale of young men being brutalized through ideology. And this, I'm talking about the First World War, not the Second World War, the ideology of, the reasons for you fighting in this mud hole piece of shit is because of this. I would not be surprised if a book comes out of the Russian-Ukrainian war, because all we ever hear is of elites telling us how great it is for people to die for democracy and freedom, when in fact those people dying don't have a voice because they're dead. And Erich Maria Remarque survived long enough to let us know that apparently, unfortunately, wars continue to come. Okay, Lady Chatterley's Lover, D.H. Lawrence. My second Lawrence, because this is a beautiful story. I loved it. I love the idea of it's challenging because a lady in the manor whose husband was brutally wounded in the war, lost his junk. He then says to her, in order to stay married, he says to her, you may take a lover, my dear. So she does. She takes a lover. She takes the groundsman, who was also a enlisted man in the First World War, who rose because of his soldierly qualities, rose to the rank of captain, fought bravely, and then came home and returned to his position on the manor as the groundskeeper. And she falls in love with him, and that's what upsets the lord of the manor. How dare you fall in love with this piece of shit? But no, it's a beautiful story. Love it. It's my favorite D.H. Lawrence novel, and beautiful language. I'm not a big fan of love scenes in books and stuff, but in these, he does it so well. It really carries off, and just I love that cover. Awesome book. Please read it. Paul Bowles, The Sheltering Sky. Another amazing story about Westerners. I wouldn't say wealthy, but Westerners of means who travel to the far-flung outposts of the world where they can experience culture. But the way they experience culture in this is it's not like putting beads and going to Bali. It's people who step too close to the fire and really get burnt. And the ending of this book is just marvelous. I love it. Just a beautiful ending. And when you get to the end, after everything you've been through, you just go, wow, these people deserve what they get. And I just love this book. I've read it twice, most recently this year. Paul Bowles, A Sheltering Sky. Just fascinating, highly entertaining. Lionel Shriver, a big fan of the Shriver. She's been taking a lot of shit from various outposts of culture and social discourse. We need to talk about Kevin plays that character, someone who stands out because of what their son has done. They then become the target of hate. They become the target of derision, and they have to try and live in a society like everyone. She was supposed to leave the local town because of what her son did, and the closer you get to the end of the book, the more you do start to despise this woman, because she still loves her son so much after what he's done, and he just hates her guts. but the love bond between them. That's what's great about this story, this twisted sort of maternal aspect of loving a monster. Just fascinating, very entertaining. I recommend it. Please read it. We're getting there. Brighton Rock, Graham Greene, gangsters, 50s, I think it's the 50s, but it's a gang war in Brighton. Just so well written. I love some of the stuff. The way business is done. Beautiful character, more character than plot driven, but a fun read. It gets into it's such a sort of strange place to set this gang war, even though because crime is everywhere. But it's always New York or LA or Hong Kong, whatever. I mean, Brighton, this closed in society. So well done, highly entertaining. James Herbert, The Fog. Love this because he's writing in the 70s. When was this written? 79 or something? Let me find out. Oh no, 75. I love it because the writing is just so nasty. He doesn't give a shit. The way he writes is sex scenes. I do find them entertaining in this book. Just good stuff. Nasty people trying to come together, trying to defeat this fog. And it's just sort of weird sort of story. Great incidents. A sort of episodic sort of nastiness about just a really good story. And it says here, out of the bottomless pit creeps a malevolent fog. Yeah, it's called Society. Just it was fun read. Almost getting there, mate. The Satanic Verses, Salman Rushdie. Boy, is this book. I mean, I think it won the. Didn't this win something? Maybe won the book. I'm not sure. I think it did. A lot of people just don't like this book. I hear a lot more negativity about it, but it's so fucking funny. It's so funny. It's such a good story. The Satanic Verses by Salman Rushdie. Beautifully written, and it's a laugh riot. Highly recommend it. Please have a look at it. Don't listen to the propaganda or the droning morons. Yeah, The Long Goodbye, Raymond Chandler, writing about a beautiful city in the past. Love the language, love the social dynamics. The story just runs along on its own. Easy to read, fun to read. Third normal mailer, Naked and the Dead. This is the first mailer book I read just before I read Executioner's Song. This is a fantastic book about men at war in the Pacific. Mailer himself was in the Pacific. Now, I'm not sure what role he played. I don't think he wasn't a combat soldier. He was in a combat unit, but I don't think he was at the front much. But he did do enough and see enough in order to create the grizzled, nasty male characters who are just killing and dying and being scared and cowards. And it's different to Thin Red Line. And I think that is because James Jones was an infantryman in the holes. And I think Mailer was more in headquarters, which is generally away from the actual fighting. But you can get killed any second, just the same. But the fighting men. So he must have known a lot of really, really tough dudes, really grizzled people who'd had sick of fighting, young men who'd never been in war, suddenly thrust into killing and dying. And he does it so well. The journey of carrying the wounded man across rivers and valleys is just astonishing, just so brilliantly done. You almost feel what it was like to be one of those men. Worth reading. Zorba the Greek, Nikos Kazantzakis. Loved it. It took me a while to get into it, but it's such a funny book. It's just a fun read. Again, a book that you might not consider to be part of a top 100 engaging, entertaining, readable books for people who may not read that much. But you'll really love it. You'll be surprised. You'll read this and go, man, I'm glad, because a lot of people probably, maybe people know Zorba the Greek, but no one really knows the story in the book. They know the film as well. Somerset Maugham, The Razor's Edge. One of those books I read when I was young. Well, oh yeah, I'm going to go to the Himalayas and sit in a mountain. And one of the lines that comes out is the character goes up to the mountain and starts sort of meditating, and he comes back and says, it's so easy to meditate up here in the mountain with nature and beauty. How do you do it down there in the world? And the local sort of monk goes, life is like a razor's edge. You are closer than you think. So it's a great story about a Western man who goes to war in the First World War. He's disillusioned. He feels lost. His life is not the same. He comes home and then he starts to travel the world. He goes to France. He goes to the Himalayas. It's a coming of age story. It's a story of a man who's trying to find his place again in the world after fighting. He volunteered as an ambulance driver in the First War, the character, and then he ends up trying to live his life, but it's impossible for him to get on with his life. And he has a friend who goes to a different path, and it's how their two lives drift apart and then come together. Beautiful story. Fantastic film made with Bill Murray in the 80s, 85, 86. Brilliant. Okay, hold on. Okay, this is a bit of a sort of. Oh, okay, hold on. I've got to take something out here. This is taking up all my space. The Living Dead by George Romero and also Daniel Kraus. It's just the story of zombies, and the reason I want to get, because it's like the film but in a book, or it's like the whole genre put into this big thick omnibus, and it's worth reading. It's fun. Read it. Jules Verne again, Around the World in 80 Days. Fun, entertaining. You'll like it. Maybe 14 to 20-year-olds will get a lot out of it. The Plague by Albert Camus. It's a plague in an Algerian town, and it's the response. It's nothing like COVID, but still entertaining, readable, interesting, knowledgeable, and fun. Jarhead by Anthony Swofford. This came out, a book about the first Gulf War in 1991. It's about a story about a soldier who's desperate to get into action, who's desperate to prove himself. And when he gets there, he's just as disillusioned as every other soldier has ever been on the planet Earth. And it's so well written, written from a grunt's point of view. And this guy really, really put everything into this book. I don't know what he's written since, but this book is entertaining, and you will like it because it tells a story of young men at a new war, a war that lasted days and hours, and it's the frustration of being a soldier, again, under the command of morons. Finally, book 100, Fallen Angel. This is the book version, well, this is the novel where the 1980s film Fallen Angel by Angel Heart, with Mickey Rourke. This is a great book about a deal with the devil. It's so well written. It's beautifully woven into this sort of pathological, satanic world where characters live in a real world, and then somehow they've found themselves getting involved in voodoo and shit, and then they forget that they were there. And it's almost like the devil plays this trick. I'll do this for you, you do this for me. But the problem is they forget they've made a deal with the devil. They forget. They hide from it because they're scared of the devil. They're scared of Satan. So they hide in their own minds that they've made this deal. And then Satan is the one who's always trying to catch up to these people. He's always trying to say, no, you owe me your soul. Brilliant book. Fascinating. William Hochberg. I don't even know how to pronounce it. I don't have. All right, that's it. It's 100 novels. 100 books that I think that people who generally don't like to read, or hesitant readers, non-readers, if you love reading, please pick up one of these 100 novels, and I'm sure you'll get something out of it. I'm positive you will. It was great doing this series. I I've still got to edit it and all that. What am I reading? Well, I don't think I'll be reading anything before the end of the year, but the first book will probably be Grant Lee Kiz's Mary Penfold history. And anyway, I'm tired. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you're still here. And remember, keep reading, buy books, visit bookstores, visit your libraries, enjoy reading. Take 5 minutes away from 14 hours of TikTok. You can do it, can't you? And I'm just trying to show to you that reading fills your mind with pleasure and fun and entertainment as much as anything else. All right, that's it. I'm off. If I can find how to turn it off. Thanks for coming. Bye. What is this fucking book about?